The Detroit Lions had just hired the most expensive coach in football. A Michigan kid, a guy who'd won 60 games in San Francisco and been fired anyway. The fan base was ready to believe again. 11 months later, the team would finish 5-11, and team president Matt Millen got caught screaming a slur at a former player in a hallway. Welcome to the Steve Mariucci era. But before any of that, there was a plan to build the winner. In the spring of 2003, Detroit spent real money in free agency for once, and spent it on defense. Dre Bly came over from the Rams as a top cornerback, Big Daddy Wilkinson on the defensive line, Earl Holmes at linebacker. Actual NFL players signed on purpose. In the NFL draft, Matt Millen had the second overall pick and took a wide receiver, Charles Rogers from Michigan State, Bolitnikoff winner, 27 touchdowns in 2 college seasons, a kid from Saginaw who stayed home for school. Rogers was a legitimate prospect, though questionable at second overall, but Joey Harrington needed someone to throw to. In April of 2003, the Lions had a hometown coach, a hometown receiver, and a defense that cost money. Nobody knew how deep the Detroit Lions foundation was rotted. So the season starts at Ford Field, Mariucci's debut. Charles Rogers was excellent, 2 touchdowns in his first professional game. He dueled with another rookie making his own debut, Arizona's Anquan Boldin, who put up 217 yards. The Lions won anyway, 42-24. For about 3 hours, the Lions' plan was working. Then, they lost 6 in a row. And here's the thing about the 2003 Lions. There's no dramatic collapse to describe, no gut punch moment where it all fell apart. It just quietly stopped happening. Rogers broke his collarbone in practice during the bye week and never played again that season. The offense couldn't run the ball at all. Harrington threw 22 interceptions, tied for the most in the league. What they were good at was protecting Harrington. 11 sacks allowed all year, fewest in the entire NFL. Detroit built a wall around a quarterback and then let him throw to the other team. The cherry on top came in Week 15, when Millen made himself the story again. After a 45-17 loss in Kansas City, he ran into former Lion Johnny Morton outside the locker room, said hello. Morton told him to kiss his ass. So Millen screamed a homophobic slur at him, twice, in front of a Chiefs PR staffer and a reporter from the Kansas City Star, which made it national news. But the number that actually defines that season is this one. They finished 0-8 on the road. Every single win came at Ford Field. 3rd straight year without a road victory. A team so hopeless away from home, it had become genuine comedy. They finished 5-11, still not sniffing the playoffs, which meant the off-season arrived with the front office needing to change the subject. So Millen went back to the draft with 2 first-round picks and a chance to fix things. He took a wide receiver. This becomes a trend with Millen. Roy Williams, 7th overall. And, in fairness, Williams was serviceable. They also grabbed running back Kevin Jones in that same first round, and Jones ran for 1,100 yards as a rookie. A solid draft, but another year the offensive line and the defense got neglected. And then, Week 1 happened. Soldier Field. Detroit hadn't won a road game since December of 2000. 24 straight losses, an NFL record. Shaun Rogers blocks a third-quarter Bears field goal. Bracey Walker picks it up and runs it back 92 yards. Final minute of the 4th quarter. Lions up 6, pinned on their own goal line. So they take the intentional safety, hand Chicago a free kick, and Detroit still leading by 4. Chicago returns it to midfield and drives to the Detroit 9. The Lions are going to blow it again. And then, Bracey Walker strikes again. He picks off Rex Grossman in the end zone with 18 seconds left. Lions 20, Bears 16. Perhaps the signature win of the Millen era so far. But this is Detroit. So the game that ended the longest road losing streak in football also ended Charles Rogers' season on the 3rd play. Same collarbone. Mariucci's quote was, "Same collarbone, different spot." And that became the season. They got to 4-2. The best this era ever felt, the streak breakers looking like a real football team. Then, 5 straight losses, 3 by a single score, close enough to hurt every week. On Thanksgiving, Peyton Manning threw 6 touchdown passes and was done by the middle of the third quarter. 2 receivers caught all 6, 41-9, at home on national television. They finished 6-10, one better than last year, which, at this point, counted as momentum. Enough momentum that Vegas set the win total at 8, and ESPN called them a sleeper. Mariucci said out loud he wanted 10 or 11 wins and a playoff berth. So in April, with the 10th pick, Millen took a wide receiver, Mike Williams. Third straight year, a guy who hadn't played a football game in over a year after losing an eligibility fight with the NFL. Millen would later admit his son was in that room and reportedly punched him afterward. Then, in July, the ultimate rug pull for Lions fans. Matt Millen signed a 5-year extension through 2010 despite all losing seasons. The Lions announced it with a photograph of Millen and William Clay Ford sitting together on a golf cart. Jeff Garcia, brought in to fix the quarterback position, broke his leg in the final preseason game. They beat Green Bay in Week 1, lost 38-6 in Week 2, and rushed for 29 yards. Harrington had the worst passer rating in football by October and finally got benched. Garcia won a game, threw a walk-off pick 6 in overtime, got hurt again. Harrington came back. Charles Rogers got suspended 4 games for a 3rd substance abuse violation. Mike Williams contributed nothing. Then another Thanksgiving nightmare. Atlanta 27, Detroit 7. Millen waited 4 days and fired him. Dick Duran took over and said, "It's hard for me to stand up here because Steve is a friend." Then Dre Bly went on NFL Network and blamed Harrington. Said one guy was the cause of this whole thing. Said it wasn't hard to figure out who. By December, Fire Millen was a meme in Detroit. 1,000 people marched 5 blocks to Ford Field chanting, "Ho, ho, ho, Millen must go," in what was called the Millen Man March. The Lions lost that game 41-17. Mariucci finished 15-28 and never coached football again at any level. But Millen still had 5 years on that contract and a head coaching vacancy to fill. It can't possibly get worse, can it? Enter the Rod Marinelli era, where the Lions would reach the pinnacle of awfulness, an 0-16 season.